Every great journey begins with a single step, and for you, that step may be learning English through story. Some people wait for the perfect time, the perfect place, the perfect teacher, but the truth is, the perfect time is now. That single step you take today may look small in your eyes, but it holds the power to change the course of your future. Think about it. Every mountain is climbed one step at a time. Every river is crossed one stride at a time, and every new language is learned one word at a time. You don't need to know everything today, you just need to start. When you open the pages of a story, you're not just turning paper, you're opening a door, and behind that door is a world that wants to teach you, a world that wants to walk with you, a world that wants to help you find your voice. Many people say learning English is hard, that it takes too much time, that it's not for them. But the moment you take that first step, you will realize it is not a wall standing in front of you, it's a path. And every story you hear, every sentence you speak, every word you repeat, is a stone on that path leading you forward. Some may laugh at the small beginnings. They may say, "It's just a children's story, how can this help me?" But let me tell you, it's the simple stories that build the strongest foundations. A child doesn't run before he learns to walk, and you won't speak like a scholar before you learn to listen like a child. And that's the beauty of beginning with stories. They are gentle, they are kind, they welcome you in, no matter where you are, no matter what your background may be. I want you to picture this, a young boy and a young girl climbing into a magic tree house, stepping into an adventure far bigger than themselves. They didn't know what awaited them, but they climbed anyway. And that's the same courage you need. You don't need to know how far the journey will take you. You don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need the courage to put your foot on the first step. When you learn English through story, you are not only learning the meaning of words, you are stepping into the meaning of life itself, because stories carry lessons. Stories carry wisdom. Stories carry laughter, fear, joy, and hope. And when you let those stories shape your ears, your mouth, your mind, you are learning English in the most natural way possible. It's not a burden, it's not a duty. It becomes a journey you actually enjoy. You see, the reason many give up is because they forget the power of beginning small. They want to run a marathon without ever taking that first step out the door. But if you are willing to begin with one story, one sentence, one word, you will find yourself growing stronger day by day. And before long, the small things you thought were weak will become the mighty foundation you stand upon. It is not the strongest who succeed. It is not the fastest who finish. It is the one who takes that first step and refuses to turn back. That's the secret, not talent, not luck, not some magic gift from above, just the courage to begin and the faith to continue. So I say to you tonight, don't wait for tomorrow. Don't wait for a better season. Don't wait for someone to hand you the answers. Take that single step today. Open that book. Listen to that story. Speak that word aloud, and know this: the step you take may feel small, but it has the power to open a world you never imagined. Because every great journey begins with a single step, and for you, that step may be learning English through story. Stories are not just words on a page. They are doors that open into new worlds, teaching us while they inspire us. You can take a story into your hands, and suddenly you're not sitting in the same chair anymore. You're not staring at the same walls. You're stepping into another land, walking among people you've never met, living moments you could never imagine on your own. And that's the miracle of a story. It takes you farther than your feet could ever carry you, and yet it also brings you closer to who you really are. When we read or listen to a story, we may think we're only hearing words, but what we're really hearing is the echo of 1,000 voices, 1,000 lessons, 1,000 truths whispered through time. A story is a teacher, yes, but it is also a companion. It walks with you in silence and speaks to you in moments when you least expect it. And while the grammar, the vocabulary, the English itself is shaping your mind, the story is shaping your heart. That's why stories matter so deeply when you're learning, because you're not just memorizing rules. You're living in worlds that make the language breathe. Think about the power of imagination. A child sits with a book, and suddenly the backyard becomes a jungle. The night sky becomes a pathway to adventure. The simple shadows on the wall become the opening scene of a grand journey. That is what a story does. It awakens what is already within us, the hunger to see beyond the ordinary. And when you're learning English, that hunger becomes fuel. It makes you want to keep reading, keep listening, keep turning the pages, not because you have to, but because you can't stop. Let's not forget that stories have always been the way we pass on wisdom. Long before textbooks, long before schools, people told stories around fires, under the stars, in quiet corners of the world. Stories carried the history of nations, the faith of families, the dreams of children yet unborn. And when you step into a story today, you're stepping into that same stream, the same living river that has carried wisdom across generations. That's why it works. That's why it moves us. That's why it teaches us even when we don't realize we're being taught. Now, some will say it's just a story, it's not real. But let me tell you, sometimes the things that aren't real teach us the most about reality. A story about a boy and a girl in a magic treehouse may not be written in history books, but it carries truths that history itself cannot always teach. Truths about courage, about wonder, about the power of believing that there is more waiting for us beyond what we see. And when you learn through that kind of story, the language becomes more than letters and sounds. It becomes a living, breathing bridge between where you are and where you long to be. You may pick up a book for practice, but the story inside will carry you further than practice alone. It will teach you how to listen to rhythm, how to feel the rise and fall of words, how to recognize meaning not just by definition, but by spirit. And as you walk through those stories, page by page, your English grows in a way that feels almost effortless, because you're not only studying, you're living. And isn't that what we truly want, not just to learn, but to live in a language? To feel it in our laughter, to carry it in our prayers, to share it in our conversations. Stories make that possible. They are not barriers. They are bridges. They are not assignments. They are adventures. They are not dead words. They are living doors waiting for you to step through. So when you hear a story, don't dismiss it as something small. Don't say, it's just a tale. See it for what it is. A doorway, an open gate, a chance to enter a new world while strengthening your own. Every time you open that book, every time you listen with your heart as well as your mind, you are stepping into a place where English becomes alive, where learning becomes joy, and where your journey becomes more than study. It becomes life itself. Stories are not just words on a page. They are doors that open into new worlds, teaching us while they inspire us. When you listen to a story, you are not just learning English. You are feeling it, living it, breathing it. Words alone, when stripped of life, are cold, empty, and powerless. But when they are woven into a story, they take on color, rhythm, and heartbeat. They rise from the page, they enter your mind, and they stir something deep within your soul. A story makes the language alive. It makes the words more than lessons. It makes them experiences. When you hear a story, the words are no longer just rules of grammar or lines of vocabulary. They become voices, they become footsteps, they become laughter and tears. Think about it when you listen to a child whisper, "Come on, let's go." You're not simply hearing two simple English words. You are hearing excitement. You are hearing joy. You are hearing adventure. And in that moment, you are not studying English. You are living inside it. That is the difference. Some people try to learn English by memorizing lists, by repeating phrases without meaning, by stacking words like bricks without mortar. But a story gives those bricks a house, a home. A story gives them walls that hold memories, windows that open to new sights, doors that lead you farther than you thought you could go. You do not just learn a word. You see it, you feel it, you taste it in the moment of the story. And that is why it stays with you. Language, at its heart, is not about rules. It is about connection. It is about one human soul reaching out to another, and what connects us more than stories. When you listen to a story, you are not only connecting with the language, you are connecting with the heartbeat of those characters, the world they live in, the dreams they chase, the fears they carry. That connection goes deeper than study. It becomes part of you. Think of the first time you heard a story that made you laugh. Do you remember how natural the words felt, how the rhythm of the sentences carried you along without effort? That is language alive. Think of the first story that brought tears to your eyes, where words felt heavy, where silence between the words spoke louder than the words themselves. That is language breathing. That is English no longer locked in a classroom. It is English written on your heart. And when you learn like this, something remarkable happens. The words you once struggled to memorize become words you cannot forget. The sentences that felt too hard become sentences you feel comfortable saying. You are not forcing the language anymore. You are living it. Just as a child learns not by study alone, but by hearing, by feeling, by breathing in the voices around them, so too can you learn through story. That is why I tell you, don't just listen with your ears. Listen with your heart. Let the story surround you. Let the voices of Jack and Annie, standing in that magic treehouse, guide you into a world where English is not just a subject to study, but an adventure to live. Don't treat the story as homework. Treat it as a journey and walk with it step by step. Because when you feel the story, you carry it with you. You may forget a grammar rule, but you will not forget the way a story made you laugh. You may forget the definition of a word, but you will not forget the way that word was spoken in a moment of wonder, fear, or joy. That memory is what gives the language power in your life. So open your ears, open your heart, and let the story breathe life into the language for you. Learn it not as a task, but as an experience. Speak it not as a duty, but as a living voice. And when you do, English will no longer feel like something outside of you. It will become part of your very breath. When you listen to a story, you are not just learning English. You are feeling it, living it, breathing it. A childlike heart is never afraid to wonder, and that is where real learning begins. You see, when a child looks at the world, they do not see limits. They do not see walls. They do not see impossibilities. A child looks at the sky and sees a place where dreams can fly. A child hears a story and does not ask, "Is this real?" but instead asks, "What happens next?" That spirit of wonder is the secret to learning because it keeps the mind open, the heart soft, and the will ready to explore. Too many of us lose that childlike heart as we grow older. We get weighed down with fear of mistakes, with the pressure of perfection, with the idea that we must know everything before we begin anything, and in that heavy burden, the joy of learning is stolen away. But when you return to that childlike wonder, when you give yourself permission to ask questions, to be curious, to laugh at your own mistakes, you will find that learning comes alive again. You will find yourself growing not out of duty, but out of delight. Think about a child learning to speak for the first time. They do not worry about grammar. They do not worry about sounding foolish. They simply imitate, repeat, try again. They stumble, they fall, but they never stop trying. Why? Because their heart is full of wonder. They are not afraid to ask, "What is that? Why does it sound that way? How do I say it?" And in asking, they discover. In discovering, they learn. And in learning, they grow. The same is true when you learn English through story. If you approach it with a heavy heart, if you think only about the rules, only about the mistakes, you will feel chained down. But if you approach it like a child climbing into a magic tree house, eager to see where it might take you, then learning becomes a joy. Every new word is an adventure. Every sentence is a new path. Every story is a doorway to wonder. That childlike heart does not demand to know everything in advance. It simply trusts that each page turned, each word spoken, each moment lived will bring something new. That is why children learn faster. That is why they laugh while they grow. And that is why you, too, must guard your heart from the fear of failure and instead embrace the wonder of discovery. I want you to remember this. Mistakes are not enemies, they are teachers. Every time a child falls while learning to walk, they are not failing, they are growing stronger. Every time you mispronounce a word, every time you struggle with a sentence, you are not failing, you are building. That is the childlike heart at work, turning every stumble into a step forward. And do not forget, wonder has a way of carrying you through the hard places. A child who wonders about dinosaurs is not bored by the pages of a book. They are excited to meet creatures they've never seen before. A child who wonders about faraway lands is not afraid of new words. They are thrilled by the chance to travel without leaving their chair. If you hold on to that same wonder, then even the hardest lessons will feel lighter, because your heart will be leaning toward discovery rather than running from difficulty. The story of Jack and Annie climbing into that treehouse is not just for children, it is for you. It is a reminder that real learning does not begin with age, with knowledge, or with skill. Real learning begins with wonder, and when your heart is willing to wonder, you will never stop growing. So I say to you, let go of the fear that holds you back. Let go of the doubt that whispers you can't. Take hold of the wonder that asks, "What if I can?" Step into the story with the eyes of a child, and you will see that English is not a wall to climb. It is a world to explore. A childlike heart is never afraid to wonder, and that is where real learning begins. Dinosaurs Before Dark is more than a book. It's a bridge carrying you from the struggle of learning into the joy of discovery. A bridge is something we walk across when there's no other way forward. It connects one place to another, one moment to another, one life to another, and that's what this story does for you. It takes you from the weight of struggle, from the fear of mistakes, from the frustration of learning, and it carries you into something far greater. The joy of discovery, the thrill of adventure, the wonder of language coming alive. For many, learning English feels like standing on one side of a wide river, staring across to the other bank. You see where you want to go. You see the conversations, the opportunities, the freedom waiting for you. But in between is that river of doubt, confusion, and difficulty, and it feels impossible to cross. That's when a story like Dinosaurs Before Dark comes as a gift, because it does not ask you to swim through the deep waters. It lays a bridge before you, a bridge made of characters, of imagination, of simple words woven into powerful meaning. And when you step onto it, you realize you can cross. Think of Jack and Annie climbing into that treehouse. They didn't know where it would take them. They didn't have a map. They didn't have a plan. They only had the courage to step in. And the moment they did, they were carried into a world they never could have found on their own. That is what this book does for you. When you open its pages, you step into the treehouse of learning. You may think you are only reading a story, but before long you realize you are crossing a bridge into a new world of understanding. And on that bridge, something beautiful happens. Struggle begins to fade and joy begins to rise. You see, language becomes heavy when it is treated only as rules and drills. But when it is wrapped in story, it becomes light, it becomes alive. Suddenly, the words you could not remember are tied to an adventure you cannot forget. The sentences that once seemed too hard become part of a conversation between two children you feel you know. You are no longer dragging yourself through lessons. You are running across a bridge into discovery. That bridge also teaches you something deeper. Learning is not meant to be endured, it is meant to be enjoyed. Think about it. When you're caught up in the story, you're not counting the words, you're not measuring your progress, you're not worrying about mistakes. You are simply moving forward, and that is the secret. Progress does not come when you focus on struggle. It comes when you step into joy, because joy has a way of lifting the weight, carrying you further than effort alone ever could. And what joy is greater than discovery? Discovery is the spark that lights up the mind, the moment when you realize you understand something you never understood before. Discovery is when you read a line and suddenly, without translation, you know what it means. Discovery is when you hear a word and it stays with you because it came wrapped in a story you loved. That is the joy this book carries you into. But here is the truth. You must be willing to step onto the bridge. Just as Jack and Annie had to climb into the treehouse, you must open the book. You must give yourself permission to cross. You cannot stand at the edge forever, saying, "It's too hard, it's too far, it's too much." The bridge is waiting for you, and it is strong enough to carry you. But it can only carry those who step, and when you do, you'll find that the journey is not lonely. You are walking with Jack and Annie. You are walking with every learner who has ever picked up this book, every heart that has ever stepped from struggle into discovery. You are part of something larger than yourself, something that has carried countless others before you. So let the story do what it was meant to do. Let it carry you, let it move you. Let it take you from the heavy burden of struggle into the lightness of joy. And when you reach the other side, you'll look back and realize the bridge was there all along. It was waiting for you to believe it. Dinosaurs Before Dark is more than a book. It's a bridge carrying you from the struggle of learning into the joy of discovery. If you stay faithful to the journey, one story at a time, you will find your voice rising strong, confident, and free. That is the promise of steady steps, the reward of simple faithfulness. We live in a world that is always in a hurry, always demanding results right now. But learning does not bow to impatience. Growth does not answer to rushing. It comes slowly, steadily, faithfully. And if you will walk the path one story at a time, you will discover a strength in yourself that you did not know was there. Many people quit too soon. They look at the mountain of language ahead of them and they say, "I will never climb it." They look at the voices around them and they say, "I will never speak like that." And in their doubt, they stop before the journey even begins. But the ones who reach the summit are not the ones who ran the fastest, not the ones who started with the most talent, not the ones who had the easiest road. They are the ones who stayed faithful, who kept moving forward when others gave up. One story at a time, that is all it takes. You don't have to master everything in a day. You don't have to memorize every word in a week. You don't have to speak perfectly in a month. You only have to stay faithful to the next step, the next page, the next story. Each time you open a book, each time you listen, each time you repeat, you are building something inside of you. And even if you cannot see it today, the day will come when you realize your voice is stronger, your confidence is greater, your freedom is nearer. Think about the farmer who plants seeds in the ground. He does not wake up the next morning and expect a harvest. He waters, he waits, he tends, he believes, and in time, the seed breaks through the soil, the stem rises, the fruit appears. That is what your journey is like. Each story is a seed planted in your heart and mind. At first, it may look small, hidden, invisible, but if you stay faithful, if you keep tending it with patience and practice, it will rise. And one day your voice will bloom with strength, confidence, and freedom. And what a freedom that is! The freedom to speak without fear, the freedom to understand without struggle, the freedom to connect with people across borders, across cultures, across distances. That freedom is not given in a moment. It is earned through faithfulness, through the choice to keep going when the road feels long, to keep believing when the progress feels slow, to keep reading when the words feel hard. Do not despise small beginnings. The voice that seems weak today will grow stronger tomorrow. The words that tremble on your lips now will one day flow with power. The confidence you cannot feel in this moment will rise with every faithful step you take. And when it rises, it will not be a borrowed voice, not an imitation, not a copy of someone else. It will be your own voice, strong, confident, and free. Jack and Annie did not discover their adventures all at once. They climbed into that treehouse one journey at a time. Each book, each adventure, each discovery added to the story, and the same is true for you. Each story you enter is another step into your own adventure, another stone on your path, another moment shaping the voice inside of you. You don't need to know the ending today. You only need to stay faithful to the journey, because the truth is this: faithfulness is greater than talent. Faithfulness is stronger than speed. Faithfulness will carry you farther than you ever imagined. And if you will stay faithful, story by story, lesson by lesson, word by word, you will one day hear yourself speaking with a strength you never knew you had, with a confidence you once thought impossible, with a freedom that makes the journey worth it all. If you stay faithful to the journey, one story at a time, you will find your voice rising strong, confident, and free. Thank you for joining me on this journey of learning through stories. Remember, every step you take opens a new world of wonder and discovery. Keep listening, keep believing, and let your voice grow strong and free. If you enjoyed this, be sure to like and subscribe for more inspiring stories. Together, we'll keep walking this path one story at a time.